The sun hung low over Alexandria, turning the city's white stones into molten gold as the slaves rolled open the heavy palace doors. Inside, the corridors smelled of incense and sea breeze, but deeper within the palace, behind layers of guards and locked bronze gates, hid a world only a handful of people knew existed. This was Cleopatra's gold chamber, the heart of her most secret operation, an operation that could decide the fate of empires. In a dimly lit cellar beneath the palace, a young metalworker named Arion wiped sweat from his forehead as he dipped a long rod into a bubbling pot of molten gold. He had been chosen by Cleopatra herself, handpicked from the best artisans of Egypt, but this honor came with a warning. No one who entered the gold chamber was allowed to speak of what they saw, not even to their families. Arion never forgot the queen's voice when she told him this. Strong, calm, and sharper than any blade. Gold is power, she had said. And power must remain protected. Every night, the queen's personal guards would escort Arion and the other artisans to the chamber. Here, in absolute silence, they shaped the gold that would travel across borders disguised as something far more innocent. Cleopatra had enemies everywhere. Rome watched her every move, traders gossiped at the docks, and spies lurked in market alleys. If they ever discovered how much gold she secretly moved through the kingdom, they could destroy her economy within months. So she hid it in plain sight. Arion's task was to shape gold into the body of everyday items: wine jugs, spice jars, ink pots, even hollowed scroll holders, each crafted so perfectly that no one suspected the weight inside. The queen's caravans would carry these items out of Alexandria as harmless goods, while the real gold stayed hidden beneath layers of clay or painted marble. One night, as Arion melted gold into a slender rod meant for a hollowed papyrus case, he noticed something strange. The queen herself walked into the chamber, her steps quiet, her presence glowing like moonlight on water. She rarely visited the artisans in person. All the workers froze. Cleopatra stepped closer to Arion's workstation, her eyes scanning the golden rod in his hand. "You see the cracks," she said softly. Arion stared again. He hadn't noticed cracks at all. "Gold speaks," she murmured. "It tells you when it is tired, when it wants to be shaped slower. Listen to it." She took the rod and rotated it under the lamplight. Only then did Arion see the faintest line, so thin it could have been a strand of hair. He swallowed, suddenly nervous. I'm sorry, my queen." Cleopatra shook her head. "Precision saves nations, Arion. One crack, and the wrong eyes will find what I am hiding." She looked directly into his eyes, and for a moment he felt the weight of the entire kingdom pressing against his chest. "Start again," she said gently. "This time slow, like breathing with the river." That night Arion worked differently. He listened to the metal, shaping it carefully, letting the gold settle as if it were alive. When Cleopatra returned hours later and inspected his work, she nodded once, a small gesture, but one that filled him with pride. Days turned into weeks, and Arion's skill grew. He began crafting more complex pieces, gold hidden inside temple lamps, behind fake jade carvings, even under the bases of perfume bottles. But something disturbed him. Each night, the guards seemed more nervous. Supplies were checked twice, then 3 times. The palace whispers grew louder. Rome was coming. Cleopatra knew her time was running short. One evening, when the wind howled like a warning through the palace corridors, Arion was summoned early. The chamber was darker than usual, lit only by a few torches. The queen stood in the center, speaking quietly with her advisor, the wise and stern Apollonios. Their voices echoed. "If they seize the treasury," Apollonios said, "Egypt will fall within a month." Cleopatra's eyes burned with determination. Then they must not find the treasury. That night she revealed her final plan. The queen would hide the last and largest portion of her gold in something completely unsuspected, the sarcophagus of a false noblewoman. A burial, she explained, was sacred. Even Rome would hesitate to disturb a freshly sealed tomb. Arion felt his heart pound. This was madness, or brilliance. Cleopatra stepped toward him. "You will craft the inner shell," she said. Thin, unbreakable, and silent. He bowed, though fear tingled through him. No artisan in Egypt had ever done such a thing. They worked through the night, Arion shaping the golden shell so thin it looked like woven sunlight, the queen pacing silently behind him, her face lit by fire. When it was done, they placed the gold inside the sarcophagus. Cleopatra rested her hand on its surface. "If Rome takes my throne, they will not take my soul," she whispered. "And gold is the soul of a kingdom." The night of the burial arrived. A fake procession marched across the desert, torches flickering against the sand. Arion walked behind the guards, hiding his trembling hands inside his cloak. If Rome discovered the ruse, he knew they would kill everyone present. They reached the tomb at dawn. As the sarcophagus descended into the ground, the queen looked at Arion one last time. "You have protected Egypt more than any soldier," she said softly. "Remember this night, but speak of it to no one." The tomb was sealed, the sand brushed smooth, the desert restored to silence. Days later, Rome entered Alexandria. They searched, threatened, interrogated, but found nothing. The treasury seemed empty. Cleopatra's operation remained untouched. Arion returned to his old life, carrying the queen's secret like a flame inside his chest. He never told anyone, not even when the queen died, not even when Rome claimed Egypt, not even when he grew old and his hands could no longer hold tools. And so the desert kept its secret. A tomb with no noblewoman, a sarcophagus with no body, only gold, enough to buy an empire. And beneath the shifting sands of time, Cleopatra's last victory slept silently, untouched, waiting for the day the world would remember how she protected her kingdom not only with armies, but with the quiet precision of hidden brilliance.